So we're going to be talking some Western Michigan football today. That is the week 3 matchup for Illinois against those Broncos coming out of the MAC. They will play on September 13th at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern time. That game right now is supposed to be on FS1 locally. Their first game will be against Michigan State. Illinois is just one of 2 Big Ten opponents that they will be playing. So we'll have a better idea of how they stack up against Big Ten competition before they actually see Illinois. I know that Michigan State isn't quite on Illinois' level right now, but still, it's a good gauge of talent for sure. Some past history between Western Michigan and Illinois. They have met 6 times. The Illini are 4-2 against Western Michigan and 4-1 at home. Their last meeting was in 2016 on September 17th. Actually, Western Michigan won that game. They actually kicked the crap out of Illinois. They won 34-10. Those were still the dark days of Illinois football back then. But oh my gosh, I mean, if you're a recent fan who's just getting used to this kind of success, if that doesn't put it in perspective how far Brett Bielema has taken this program in a few short years, and that was 9 seasons ago. I mean, it's almost a decade. Still get blown out by Western Michigan at home, and there were so many dark years after that one as well. So some other meetings they've had, though, a lot more positive for the Illini. 2012 was their first meeting. Before that, Illinois won that one 24-7. 2011, they also met in Champaign. Illinois won 23-20. 2008, that is the only time Illinois has gone to play them. They didn't play them on campus, though. They played them in Detroit. And Western Michigan also won that one 23-17. Then you go back to 2004. Illinois won 30-27. And then one more meeting to find the first meeting between these 2 teams. You have to go all the way back to 1947, where Illinois won 60-14. That's freaking crazy. I mean, they barely scored points at all back in the day. You're telling me Illinois put up 60 in 1947? Holy, I mean, that's crazy. But so, yeah, overall, I mean, the past history, it's about what you'd expect. I mean, 4-2, I think it is a little surprising that Western Michigan has beaten them twice, especially just, again, that last meeting, even though it will be almost 9 years to the exact date since that meeting. I do remember that game pretty bad. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Again, 34-10. I mean, that's an absolute blowout. And that was at home. That was at Champaign as well. So Illinois is looking for revenge. Even though it was so long ago. So some recent years at Western Michigan. In 2024, they went 6-7. They were 5-3 in the MAC, however. Their away record, since this game will be away, I'm going to give their away record as well for each of these past 5 seasons that we're going to look at. They were 2-5, so not very good on the road. And again, they were 5-3 in the MAC, so only 1 win outside of conference play anyway. Some notable games for them. They also played 2 Big Ten opponents last year. So they played Wisconsin in week 1. They lost that one 28-14. Week 2, they then played Ohio State 56-0. They got absolutely smacked. And then week 5, they lost at Marshall. These are just some key games. I'm not going to go through their entire schedule or we'd be here all night. Week 5, though, they lost at Marshall. That seemed like a pretty bad loss. They lost 27-20. Week 6, they won at Ball State 45-42. Certainly shows their scoring capability since they haven't really been showcased in any of these other games that I'm bringing up. And then week 11, they lost to NIU. I just bring up NIU. I brought up that Ball State game just because of that wild score. It definitely seemed like their most eventful game of the year. And then I bring up the week 11 loss against NIU just because NIU beat Notre Dame. So they were definitely the most popular team in the MAC, even if they didn't end up being the best. And then a bowl game as well. They did get to a bowl game at 6-6. They got to the IS4S Salute to Veterans Bowl. That is somewhere in Alabama. I can't remember exactly where. They lost that game to South Alabama, 30-23. So that's not a great loss in the bowl game as well. So that puts them at 6-7. 2023, then the year before, they were definitely worse. So last year was an improvement. They were 4-8 in 2023 and 3-5 in the MAC, just 1-6 away record, really rough. Some of the games I saw from that season of note, just some of the bigger opponents they played. They couldn't really touch any of them. They lost at Syracuse 48-7. They lost at Iowa then 41-10. They also played Mississippi State that year. So they 3 out of conference games against 3 Power 5 conference teams. They're Power 4 now. I got to get used to that. Lost at Mississippi State 41-28. They didn't make a bowl game, obviously. 2022, they were a little better than that. They were 5-7 and 4-4 in the MAC, 3-3 away. So pretty even season overall. They played Michigan State that year as well, like they're going to this year. They lost that 35-13. They also lost to Pitt. They played at home against Pitt, and they lost 34-13. Obviously, did not get into a bowl game that year either, with only 5 wins. So last 3 years, they've just been kind of like hovering around mediocrity. 2023 was their head coach's first year at Western. I'll get to that later. Before that, though, I mean, they did have some success, though, before these past 3 years. 2021, they actually went 8-5. Again, 4-4 in the MAC and 3-3 away. They played Michigan that year. They lost 47-14, but they did a home and away with Pitt. So this year, in 2021, they were at Pitt, and they actually won 44-41. So a really impressive victory for them then. And then they also played in the Quicken Lane Bowl. They beat Nevada 52-24. They smacked them. So that was a pretty good year for them in 2021. But again, not the same coaching staff of that either. 2020 and a weird, shortened season it was for the FCS and then the MAC and then some other conferences. They were 4-2 that year. That was all in the MAC. And then they were 2-1 in away games. They did start that year 4-0 actually, and then they lost their last 2. But it didn't really matter. It was like a weird spring season. So now looking at their roster, starting off with the head coach, of course. Head coach is Lance Taylor. He's been the head coach there since 2023, as I just mentioned. He's got a 10-15 overall record in his first 2 seasons. He has a lot of good previous experience. So before he took that job at Western, he was the offensive coordinator at Louisville in 2022. Before that, then, he was a running back coach at Notre Dame 2019 through 2021. He has some NFL experience as well. He was Carolina Panthers wide receiver coach in 2017 and 18. And then before that, then he was the running back coach at Stanford. So he actually coached Christian McCaffrey there at Stanford. And didn't coach him with the Panthers as he's wide receivers coach, but as a running back coach, he helped produce Christian McCaffrey at Stanford. Before that, then he actually started his coaching career as an intern with the Jets in 2010, and then he was a quality control coach 2011, 2012. So he's got some NFL experience in there, right? He's got some offensive coordinator experience. He's got a lot of experience coaching the skill positions. He also was a wide receiver in his own playing career. He was a walk-on wide receiver at Alabama. That was from 1999 to 2002. He did that. And then he played in the AF2 league. That is the developmental league for arena football. I had no idea that they had that until I was researching Lance Taylor, because I don't really know anything about the man. But a very interesting career path. He's been all over the place. A good experience, both in the pros and at college. has struggled a bit, however, to get this Western Michigan program off its feet with that, again, that 10-15 overall record with his first 2 seasons there in his first ever head coaching job. So obviously he's offensive minded because of the offensive coordinator job he had, excuse me for that like half yawn, and then all these, skill position coaching jobs he had before. They didn't really score a ton of points in looking at their actual scores. I mean, the only time they really did have a score that kind of, pops out was that 45-42 win against Ball State. So it seems like he has certainly struggled to get that offense going as well. And I think it's only going to be harder for him to do that actually going into 2025 because they kind of have a rough QB situation right now. They have 5 QBs on their roster. I found their spring roster the other night. Not only one of them has ever appeared in a game before. The other 4 have never been in a game, even if they have some experience sitting on the sidelines. So he'd be my guess at a starter. I really couldn't find too much information about them, a little more than what was available for Western Michigan, but I couldn't find any spring reports, confirming who's going to start at quarterback. I couldn't really find anything like that for them. So my guess is this guy, Brock Lowry. He played in 4 games while redshirting at Indiana last year. He only attempted 8 passes. He completed 4 of them for 21 yards. So my guess is he'd be the starter just because he's the only one with experience, but he literally threw 8 passes, but that's 8 more than anyone else on this roster. I really don't know. The only other options at quarterback I could see starting by that point, week 3. The oldest guy they have is a guy named Mark Konechny. And he was literally, it says he was a member of the scout team last year. So I don't know if he's a viable option. There's just another junior besides Konechny. Dang, that's a tough name. His name's Brady Jones. Maybe he gets in there, but again, he's also never appeared in a game. I would think that the Indiana guy, with the kind of year Indiana had last year, would be the one they go with. Even though he barely has any experience, he's got that experience and he's played at a major university like that. So I would think he would be probably the most talented as well. That's my guess at quarterback, but I don't think any of those options are really outstanding. They're definitely still going to be figuring it out too by the time they meet Illinois in week 3. And yeah, the Illinois that's not a secondary. That's not a pass rush you want to face when you're still trying to figure your stuff out. Their best player, though, this is really the only player that is like eye-popping to me. All their other like star players are gone from last year pretty much. But running back Jalen Buckley, he is certainly going to be a threat. 2024, he appeared in 10 games. He had 683 yards, 9 touchdowns. That's a 5.3 average. That's very good. 15 receptions as well for 112 yards. He actually played at Batavia High School out in the Chicago suburbs. So he's an Illinois guy. And his brother Jordan is actually a defensive end on the team, Jordan Buckley. He's on Western Michigan with him as well. So he's definitely the standout player on this roster. Outside of him, though, I couldn't really find anyone else that like super worries me. That in itself is worrying, honestly. Because at least on Western, I could point to a few players that I was like, Western Illinois. I can't say Western because I'm talking about another Western. But even with Western Illinois, honestly, I was able to find more information about their team, and find out some stuff at least about some of their skill players, some of the good players they've had on the defensive end. This team, it was really hard to do that. The AI overview I got from Google when I first went with an initial search. Obviously, I didn't stop there, but that's where I start. The AI overview mentioned Jalen Buckley. All the other players it mentioned were gone. And looking at their roster, I couldn't really find one player whose stat line really like pop to me besides his. So he's very talented. That'll definitely be a nice test for the front seven early on. But overall, outside of Western Illinois, right, this is on paper, this is definitely the next easiest game for Illinois. It's almost kind of a, I don't want to say trap game, just because I don't really see how it could be a trap game, right? Surrounding the Indiana game. I'm thinking more the week after the Indiana game against Stanford is that trap game, which I'll get to. But this is the one before it. Certainly has trap game potential. I just don't really see it here. Just like Western Illinois, I just don't truly see any other threat, really. I mean, their defense is definitely not up to par to be able to handle Illinois' offense from the research I was able to do on them. So, like I had it, I'm again revisiting this schedule. I had this as a win initially. I have this as a win now. I have Illinois starting out 3-0 going into that Indiana game, which is what I will be talking about next week. We'll be talking Indiana in the position. Sorry, I keep saying the position group preview in the opponent preview. So that does it for this week's episode. Again, like I mentioned, next week, same time as always, we're going to be having our probably the biggest opponent preview of the year, talking about that Indiana game week 5. That probably could take up the whole episode if we wanted to. We'll also be looking at some NBA draft stuff for see how Jakob Jonas and Will Riley are going to do in the NBA draft. Also, next Thursday, I do want to promote. So the day after the show, 12:45 Central Time, I will be doing a live react on a live stream to the commitment of Max Suter. He is one of the top tight end recruits in the country, and he'll be announcing his commitment at 1 p.m., so just a little before that, at 12:45 Central, 1:45 Eastern. I will be joining the hosts of our Alabama, Ohio State, and Ole Miss channels. So those are the other 3 finalists for him. So would love to see Illinois' tight end game go to the next level, right? They haven't really had too strong of a tight end game since Brett Bielema has been around. That's kind of the one skill position he hasn't really gotten around to overhauling. And Max Suter for the class of 26 is definitely a possibility. He is from Illinois. He is from Dunlap. So check out that live react next Thursday. Tune into the show the night before. As always, thank you for watching tonight, guys. ILL.